y'all, how y'all doing? I'm starting a new series where I'm going to be doing video replies to some of the comments and further unpacking some of the things that come up in the comments because we have some good conversations down there and I greatly appreciate y'all. So if you have not commented before, you might want to start now because you might get a video reply from me. I typically be replying and liking comments and getting to as many as I possibly can, but now I'm going to start actually making videos where I talk about the comments, read the comments, and talk about the comments and reply back to you, called Chai in the Comments. And I hope that you guys enjoy this. I'm going to do it across shows, so I don't even know for this video what it's going to be pertaining to, but I'm going to do a series of them. And you can jump in the comment section of this video and let me know how you feel about this. But shout out to Miles Washington. The username is at Miles Washington 3096. And their comment read, as one of the male viewers of this show, I for one am team Nicole. Many fans on the show who want Nicole back with Ted, who, by the way, hasn't fought enough for his marriage, is crazy. How can you all justify taking back a cheater? His job as a husband is to love and honor, protect, and respect his wife, and he hasn't done that. He disrespects with the gaslighting. Let me remind you all who Mr. Ted Richardson is. He slept with Leslie multiple times, past and present, had brought his son around her to get close to her, told her that he would leave Nicole at one point before she got pregnant, had Eva, although there should be a DNA test done, a recent one, paid her to leave town. Leslie came back to town and befriended Nicole, used his and Nicole money to pay her off again. Leslie blowing up their anniversary party, failing to put a restraining order on him, I think he means her, and his entire family. Taking Leslie home after the fight with Nicole instead of going after your wife, wasn't around when Chelsea was kidnapped, etc. You get the point. But after all that, Nicole has to take him back? Where is Ted's accountability? Is this how many of you fans view the relationship, that's cheating and disrespect is okay to do? We got to do better in society. We got to do better in our society standards of relationships. Anyway, Erica, you are not alone in the Nicole and Ted debacle. I like your commentary. Based on the spoilers, I think Nicole is going through with the divorce and goes out with Carlton. She may be saying goodbye to Ted, at least I hope. And that's just that on that. Okay. Thank you so much, Miles. I honestly, one of the things I do think about often is like how small my male audience is. And by the nature of how I am, it is probably always going to be the smaller segment of my audience. I purposefully want to create a safe space specifically for Black women first, but then for women, because I don't feel like the world has created spaces for us to truly be safe, to truly feel seen, to truly express ourselves in authentic and honest ways. And I still love Black men. Men are cool, but I still love Black men. And I want to be in community with Black men, but I don't do the patriarchal bullshit. I don't do the scapegoating of men simply because they men. I don't do the excuses and the buffoonery. Like, anything that I am asking for of a man or even of a friend, I also can deliver. I'm a reciprocal, So ultimately, when I come down on like a Ted, it winds up putting me in a position to not actually have a bunch of men in my audience, because I don't think that they take the criticism, the very valid criticism, well. So when I saw your comment, I was immediately elated. I was like, oh my God, thank you for letting your voice be known. Thank you for communicating your thoughts, sharing your opinions, because I'm like, okay, we got one. It's probably some others, like I do have a good amount of men that I know and have engaged with back and forth on other shows. So like there's a strong 5 or 6 in All American that I talk with, in that audience that I talk with. But to see you here for Beyond the Gates, I'm so grateful. And everything that you said, like, he just has dropped the ball at every turn. And because we are so used to being led by men, we kind of just give all men, because they got a penis, full reign to do whatever the hell they want. At some point you need to get over it. That's why Ted thought that he could literally just let time go by and Nicole would get over it. He literally said that he was waiting her out, because that is what is expected. That is the norm for men. This world was built on the betterment and for men to thrive. We live in a patriarchal society. The world is shaped for the guys or the gaze of men. And women just have to move around and figure it out and like get in where the hell you damn fit in. And I'm not playing that. We have way too many examples of really great men in the show for me to ever let Ted skate. Jacob is sitting right there. That is how you make a functional relationship work, a healthy relationship work from a man's perspective. That is how you show up and you be emotionally intelligent, you be grounded, you be strong, you be protective. Heavy on the protective part. It's one thing to like make mistakes and you cheated. If you're gonna do the whole I'm gonna take a cheater back and that's your ministry, that's your ministry, that's your decision. You have the autonomy to do so. Where Ted really lost me is that there is no actual present or future protection for his family specifically, or Nicole. And the way that Nicole is constantly having to run into Leslie and suffer at the hands of all of her diabolical schemes, and Ted is doing nothing but getting drunk in his damn hotel room or running around crying about the Duprees ousting him. That is where he like really lost me. So what do you want me to come back? What do you want me to let you come back for? You don't do nothing now. You want to cry and say that you've been doing this and you've been doing that. Meanwhile, you have done absolutely nothing. And to Miles's point, you ain't protected. You ain't honor her. You've been disrespectful. You've been gaslighting her. Like, sir, you wrote these divorce papers out your dang on self, because Nicole was not going to divorce you immediately. I don't believe that she was. There's some people that are saying that she just rushed to the divorce. No. This came out, she cried and she suffered and she went back and forth about it. And then the lies about Martin came out. And then Leslie turned up the dial and showed what life is going to be like on a regular basis. Now, Nicole's new norm is to run into this lady either at Orphe Jean's, at the country club, or on any random day. She's going to be trying to walk through, burning in Anita's mansion, and or showing up at Nicole's house. Those 4 places she is making regular occurrences when she's not in your hotel room. And he's doing absolutely nothing about it. So no, thank you, Miles, so much for your comment. I greatly appreciate it. It is 100% Team Nicole over here. And I think that it's easy to scapegoat Nicole and like, oh, I don't like her because she bougie, or I don't like her because she thinks everything is supposed to be perfect. I think that Nicole has gotten the short end of the stick, and it's easy when you consider yourself a have-not to blame the haves when the haves are going through things. But we're all people, and Ted is dead wrong. Every way that you look at it, any way that you flip it, he's wrong. And honestly, I feel like one of the reasons why I go so hard with the whole conversation around Kat and Tomas is because I feel like she and Tomas is literally what Nicole and Ted was back when it was all the love in the air. He was probably the loving boyfriend who turned into the loving husband. And these things that we're seeing now, they have been missing this whole time. He has not been showing up in certain areas this whole time. However, Nicole has covered him or not expected certain things of him. And now that he has a deficit in the areas that we're seeing, he is not actually a true protector because there's no actual threats. So he ain't never had to really be a protector. Now that he needs to show up in a certain way that he ain't been showing up, now the wound is exasperated. The what's missing is exasperated now because there's actually a need. So I was on what you think is live yesterday, and there's one guy on there who like is going hard for just the men. And it's like, oh, I don't want to believe that Ted wasn't a good husband because they said that he was a loving husband. That to me is relative. We are seeing who Ted is. We know what a good husband looks like, or at least what a good husband looks like by the terms of the show and what we have set, because we have examples of that. Ted don't show up and is in alignment with the examples that we have already seen. So how could he be? If all it takes to be a good husband is to have great sex and to be present in the home, then way more people would. But clearly, he's not emotionally intelligent. He's not mentally stable, and he's not actually the support system that Nicole has needed or will need going forward. Because the last time something major was going on, instead of supporting her and being there mentally, he was running around while she's miscarrying babies. He's running around to the local diner and to her apartment impregnating another woman because he's overwhelmed. Anyway, Miles, thank you so much for your comment. I appreciate it. Let me go on. Okay. SP Boogie 8570 says, please don't compare Smitty to Nicole. Smitty still left the door open for Martin to come in and try. Nicole shut the door and wanted to validate her feelings with everyone except talking to Ted. You mean it takes Kat to tell her mom to talk to Ted before really letting go? Ted asks to speak to Nicole, but like a child, she runs behind her parents, runs to Dani, runs to solve other people's problems, but can't confront her own. Almost ends up in bed with Ted's business partner. Really? The writing with Ted and Nicole is getting a little unrealistic. No way a beautiful, strong black sister like Nicole spends over 40 episodes to finally open the door to hear what Ted has to say. She spent the entire time seeking validation of her feelings, and now she wants to talk because Kat said so. No sister in my world would even let a day go without letting bro know where he stood. You said a lot, SP. You said a lot, SP Boogie, and I don't know how you identify gender-wise. It feels like you're a male, which is like, okay, I got more men in this audience than I expected, but you on the other end of the spectrum. I don't even know where to begin. No woman in your world will let a day go by. No woman in your world will let a day go by without running back to a man that cheated on them. Not once, but twice, maybe even 15 times. Hell, we don't even know. Not only did he cheat on her, but he fathered a child while she was still married. Not only were they still married when he fathered the child, but she was actively miscarrying babies and struggling behind it. And she wouldn't go a day after finding this information out without running to go talk to that man. She would go, the women in your world will seek out that particular man's validation. Interesting. You know when I think that she was looking for his validation and he was nowhere to be found because he was in another woman's bed when she was losing babies, when she felt like her body was betraying her, when she felt like she was less of a woman, when she felt like she was incapable, when she felt like she was not a good partner because she felt like her body was betraying her and she might have been doing everything wrong and she's thinking that the miscarriages are her fault. That's probably when she was seeking his validation. And you know what? She didn't get it then. But you want her to now run to him to validate her feelings around betrayal, dismissal, disrespect, and disgust that he has elicited from his actions. The victim blaming sometimes is just wild to me, but I'm so glad that you posted this comment because we get to just unpack it and get to have this conversation a bit further. The people putting the onus on Nicole to come back to Ted and give Ted the space and let Ted do this. She didn't let Ted have the affair. She didn't let Ted father this child. She didn't let Ted reconstruct the racist's face and hide the fact that her son had unalived another man. But now she got to let him talk. Now she got to let him validate. There's plenty of other decisions that he made and he decided to do it on his own. So why can't he do this? Why can't he step up and take his ass down to the police station and file a restraining order for his whole entire family, including the Duprees, with all of Leslie's aliases on it? So she can no longer come within 100 feet of any member of the Dupree Richardson family. Nicole got to let him do that too? Okay. What's to stop him from understanding whatever Nicole's routine is and infusing himself as a way of support while he's in the doghouse, getting her coffee, bringing her breakfast, dropping lunches off at the hospital? It's so interesting to me that so much of the onus in a lot of y'all's eyes is that it's on Nicole, and Nicole shut the door. You said that Smitty left the door open for Martin. Smitty and Nicole are two different people. Martin and Ted are two different people. Martin lied about unaliving a white man to his white husband after his black senator granddaddy helped him hide the fact that he did it. So in addition to him hiding it from his white husband, he's also hiding it from the world. That is a lot different than her husband, who cheated on her while she was losing his kids, took one of her kids to meet said mistress and hang out, and then fathered a child by said mistress. You see how them circumstances are entirely different? So to say that Smitty left the door open and Nicole didn't, there was actually a door there. Martin didn't tear down the entire house with his lie. Ted took a bomb, a grenade if you will, and tossed it into his house, not only with cheating with Leslie, but then perpetually lying about said cheating, including when she returned for yet another payout that you took out of y'all's account, $50,000 to be exact, to try to make this thing go away when you could have actually went to your wife and told her. It's easy to leave a door open when there's a door there still standing. This house don't even exist anymore. I'ma just say that. But to say that Nicole should not run to her family, to her friends, to her chosen community, to communicate her pain, to express and vent her betrayal, to process her thoughts, when they are also the people who had a front row seat to what she thought was her perfect marriage, is wild. And honestly, I don't think that you are this SP Boogie, so I'm not directing this particular part of my commentary to you. But men need to understand how abuse actually works. And the idea that a woman who has suffered a trauma by the hands of a man, in this case, it's an emotional one in cheating. And this man not wanting her to talk to any of her friends and or family about said trauma, that alienation is a perpetual part of abuse. That's how abuse is actually perpetuated. So for me, and again, I'm not saying that you are an abusive person or you might have abusive tendencies. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying a patriarchal society where men think that what they think is right is say and do what's right. And then the women who buy in to patriarchal societies, because I don't know what your gender is, you are pushing this patriarchal idea of like, oh, she needed to go to him instead of talking to everybody who she knows and cares about and knows, loves, and cares about her. A man who is not actually trying to be accountable to his misdoings and to his mistakes want a woman to never speak on the things that he did to hurt her. Because he can hide from it, because he can lie, because he can sidestep, because he can also lie by omission. A man who is truly wanting to walk in a spirit of accountability, who actually wants to atone for the hurtful things that he did to the woman that he claims to love, would not have a problem with her saying whatever she needs to say to get her feelings out and to get through the grieving part of the process, to get to the part where she can actually even begin to heal. He's going to own that. He's going to take every last bit of it on the chin. Just some things for you to consider. Did I address everything? I think that the Ted and Nicole conversation is very realistic. I think the writing is very realistic, and I'm proud of Nicole. I want more women to move like this when they are put in circumstances that Nicole has been put in. Yeah, love this for her. Her almost ending up in bed with Ted's business partner. I mean, did I talk about this on my live? I don't know if I talked about it on my live, but I know I talked about it on What You Think Is live. And I'll insert a clip on that because y'all have a problem with Carlton because it's disrespectful to Ted. But Ted started it. And my only thing is that I am not immediately against Carlton because I don't think that she's using Carlton to try to get back at Ted. I think that she's genuinely interested in Carlton, and I think that Carlton is genuinely interested in her. If this was just a get back, then I'll be like, all right, Nicole, this is stupid. Girl, don't do that. But I think that she actually likes him. So the fact that it's not for petty reasons, Ted be damned. He wasn't worried about disrespect when he was sliding all up into Leslie and when he was taking Martin to Leslie's house and to Leslie's job. He wasn't worried about the disrespect when Leslie to this day is in his hotel room rubbing all on his chest and his beard. He's not worried about disrespect until it's disrespect to him. So Nicole, keep doing what you're doing as far as I'm concerned. Thank you for your comment though. Okay, J-Way Z3088 says, I feel Kat was right about one thing concerning her mom's marriage, as she tried to tell Nicole to think of what she is losing. Until Leslie showed up, Ted and Nicole had been married for a long time and probably were very happy together, as people saw them as the ideal couple. This is what Kat is probably referring to, that her father's earlier mistakes were behind him, and all Nicole knew was a solid marriage before Leslie showed up. From earlier episodes, it appeared that Ted worshipped the ground that Nicole walked on. With his earlier mistakes behind him, he probably self-corrected long ago. In real life, people weather unfaithful partners all the time, and a good deal somehow stay together. But the killer is that Nicole has to see Leslie and Eva's face constantly. J-Way, okay. I get that. And I feel you. I really do. I feel what you're saying. But all of that gets negated when he slept with her last week, right? And then even so, outside of that, he slept with her last week. I think we don't know what we don't know, right? And from what I see, when it comes to the Nicole and Ted relationship, Nicole looks like the well-to-do, affluent black woman who is carrying a lot of weight in a relationship, like a lot of women do. And most of it is in the emotional, space, because women tend to carry a little bit more of the emotional burden, the emotional labor in relationships. And that is definitely getting exasperated now in this fallout. Yes, they seem happy. Yes, they seem perfect. But a lot of people do. That doesn't make them that way. And it's one thing to have made a decision to get married, right? And to be persisting within this relationship. Sometimes people persist in the chaos that they know, and they stick with the devil that they know. It doesn't mean that they're in a good circumstance. It just means that they are scared to do anything else. She committed to this marriage, so she's going to be in this marriage. Just because he seemed like he worshiped the ground that she walked on, which that's what it read to y'all, and I understand because it could be taken that way. It looked like, for me from the jump, like he is doing a lot of lip service. He's always trying to say things in reference to affirmation, but he did not move like a very emotionally intelligent man from the very beginning. And I also didn't enjoy the first actor. So there was that. So to me, it was clear that there were deficits within their marriage. However, if Nicole is used to like covering where he lacks in certain regards, then it's kind of like, this is what our marriage looks like. No, it's not perfect, but it's working for us. The same thing with Dani and Bill. You see Dani and Bill together now, and they seem like, and while they're not together, when they're actually navigating one another and like peaceful with one another, it's like, oh, this makes 100% sense. Y'all seem to work, but clearly not. Bill has issues and resentment, but like the daddy issues are probably a driving force, and then like the wandering eyes and all of the other stuff. There were cracks there that ultimately tore their damn marriage apart. I'm just saying that Ted is not as clean as he seemed to be from the beginning. And to me, the signs were there from the beginning, because so much of not only Ted, but also how the Duprees move was also based on looks, was based on how they're perceived out about in the world. And that to me is always a telltale sign. When people are overly concerned with reputation and how other people see them, that tells me that something in the milk ain't clean and something in the foundation ain't solid, right? So you're saying that Kat is looking at what their marriage was. They just were able to perform for a very long time. we're also, one of the things I think that people are not taking into consideration is that outside of the relationship, outside of the marriage, who has Nicole had to be? In addition to the whole marriage blowing up with Ted, she's also had pushback, and we've watched fights with how she's showing up within her family. And we get to see that she feels, you know, forced to be this perfect one, forced to do certain things, like she's put in a certain position. So in addition, which is why this is such a powerful moment for Nicole, specifically in her life, not only is she walking away from a marriage, but she's also figuring out who the hell she actually is. And a thing that I don't think that some of y'all are accounting for is like, oh, y'all were happy for years. Well, actually, no, because Martin was 6 years old or whatever when he was cheating. You already cheating, she's losing baby, so the marriage has not been perfect. Y'all done figured out a way to be fine and kissing on each other and hunching on each other, cool, but y'all marriage has not actually been perfect all of these years, how people want to say, just because when we start the show, we see them, you know, loving on each other and constantly telling the story about damn on Maui. Right? We also got the context from Anita about how Dani and Nicole both married young. So y'all married young before you could even figure out who you are. And what we are not taking into account is that you grow as a person. You shift as a person, especially if you're an emotionally intelligent person, especially if you're a person who moves about the world with a certain level of empathy, because as the world changes, you are also changing. So Nicole is not even the same woman that he married, for one, and yet still she ain't cheat on that man. And two, at best, Ted stayed the same, which was actually not enough. And Nicole is just now realizing, because in the moments where she needs him to show up differently, he can't, because he's not used to actually giving more effort than he has been. So he's doing exactly what he has been doing and wondering why it's not working. And y'all are trying to tell me that the marriage was cool. Can't possibly be. He ain't even fighting hard enough for me to believe that the marriage was good. I don't give a damn who says they had a loving, perfect, they look good on paper. They look good in photos. It's a doctor and another doctor. Bunch of money. He wears a great suit. Speaks well. That's what I hear when people were saying they look like the perfect couple. Looking like and being are two totally different things. You know? Two totally different things. But I appreciate your comment. I think that a lot of people have the same sentiment as you, and I don't always think, because when I'm doing the breakdown videos, I'm like responding to the episode, and it's not until I'm going through the comment section I'm like, damn, I didn't say this, and damn, I didn't say that. So like comments like yours give me a chance to further unpack some of my thoughts around this, and to like us to further dialogue about the specifics that's going on the show. The longer the show goes on, the more I'm convinced that Ted and Nicole actually probably had one of the worst marriages. It just looked great on paper. I feel like Bill and Dani, before it ended, had a better marriage than Ted and Nicole did. Ted and Nicole just didn't do a great job of masking as people, both separately and in the relationship. And when you're putting on a performance for the public, and then you also putting on a performance for your kids, of course, when something actually happened and then people start to see the cracks in it, it's going to be like, oh my God, this never happens. Actually, it's been happening all along. Sad kids didn't even know that this was, well, Martin didn't even know this was going on during one of the most tumultuous, trauma-filled times of your life. So those are my thoughts on that. And then, yes, to your point, like she still has to see and engage with Leslie and Eva. If Ted was a good husband, he would be moving differently after the anniversary. And because he hasn't even started to do the bare minimum, I'm just convinced that this wasn't these fruit flies, sorry y'all. The marriage was not all that. No matter what people thought.